Hey Peter, how's it going, man? Yoni here, just having a look at your assignment from last week. Some really strong stuff. Amazing work with the video reference in terms of cinematography and also, cropping both characters together and, rotating them out. Absolutely brilliant. It looks really strong. I love the idea as well. I think it's one that offers a lot of fun. Characters are very different. And yeah, I can see everything that you're trying to do there very clearly. I think the only note that I'd throw into the mix there might be just the idea of when he's tapping around the room. If he tapped against when he basically goes to hug her, there's just this moment when he taps the bottom and this stick kind of like goes up. And blind people don't tend to do that. It's almost like if they tapped against someone, they would almost be like, "Oh, sorry." It's almost that same impression as of stamping on somebody's toe to an extent. So it would almost be the idea of that if he did tap her, there might be just a small moment when he kind of like pulls back and then gets confused and embraces her at that point. And I think that might be something that you might be able to play with just with that thought process of maybe just throwing in a beat of oh sorry, and really kind of like wanting to make up for it with that big hug. And then with your assignment from last week, the monologue shot, there's some really nice posing here. I mean, the way that the character actually, just changes shape from one side to another and does all these little, weight shifts on the chair. Really impressive, man. It's absolutely great stuff that you've got there. Um, Things that jump out at me just kind of like over the surface, on going through this, and it's all very minor stuff. I like the way that, she closes the book, but I almost feel that, she should close it sooner and be more along the lines of, close it and then turn. But it's just, something that kind of like jumps out in my mind to a little bit, just because to keep that shape, the shape of the book, just a little bit, consistent in the first couple of frames, because she's already kind of like lifting it up, which is great. And almost like she could snap it shut on frame 14 and just have it closed and then put it down, kind of like in a really quick gesture. I think that you've got kind of like the right time there. I just think that that close could happen just a few frames earlier, and you could have a little bit of a hold as it just registers for like 4 or 5 frames. That bam, book's closed, bonk, like that. Um, I think that when she goes to this gesture on frame 52, I'm not sure if she's touching her eyelashes. It looks like that on screen, but I'm not entirely sure of what that character's doing, because I'm not sure if she's grabbing herself here and going, oh god, or she's actually going, oh god, like that. And I think that, moving the hand a fraction towards the nose, or actually towards the edge of the eyes, might be a bit better. Actually, if it is the eyelashes and the characters do have eyelashes, I think that would make it a little bit clearer. But I'm not too entirely sure, because the rising of the eyelid goes with the hand, and I think that that's what I'm registering there. And I'm not sure if she's just pulling something out of her eye at that sense. And I think that that would be something that might be like that, a little bit of a gesture, a bit more like that clear before she throws something away. Bonk, like that, if that's the case. And then pose on frame 95 just feels a little bit cluttered. I think you could probably clear this up a little bit, because she starts off in the beginning half of the scene with some really beautiful silhouette. She's got everything's kind of like perfectly on the sides of the frame, and she's really well posed. Well, in frame 95, even though it's a breakdown, having the hand all the way up here just feels a little bit forced. And I think that, just having a settle like this, where it doesn't go all the way up to here, but is actually a little bit more kind of like soft, like that. Even though you don't have this big accent in the hand, you might just be able, you can still get away with it being very fingers touch and kind of like rotate and down. A bit tricky on, constraining maybe a finger or something there, but I think it feels, that, that gesture there you should get kind of like into pose to 100 faster, and for it to be a very, 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 very slight rotation of the hand on the chest. The other thing that also jumps out at me a little bit is also the elbow on the hip over here. It's again, it seems just a bit forced. Make sure you can see that there. For her to have it completely tied into her body, but actually, if you just bring it to the side, you know, the cup that she's holding is relatively light as well, so she can just have the hand over there, and it can be reacting to everything that's going on here. But the hand just jammed into the actual side just seems a little bit too extreme. Round, you know, it goes in all the way from frame 94, bum 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 bum, pretty much until the pretty end. It just seems like it's really jammed in the back there. Although the hand, you know, gestures are great. I think if you just went into the curve editor and played around with the X and Z space and moved all of the curves in a certain direction, you could pose the entire thing. If the arm is IK and get everything in the right place. If it's FK, you might have to do a few more adjustments there. And then, yeah, when she goes into the pose where she's a bit more surprised, two things jump out at me. One of them is her eye line, because one thing that happens is that she looks up at him at frame 129, and she doesn't blink. And I'm a bit big on blinks to an extent, and my characters tend to blink sometimes a little bit too much until I've kind of like purged all of the blinks out. But really, if she's with this attention and she looks up, for me, that blink just feels stronger than actually, you know, her just trying to look up very, 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 very quickly. It almost feels that she's flipping. Oh no, you are blinking there. It's not that frame that I'm talking about. It is when she's surprised. Sorry about that. Just ignore that comment there. She shifts her attention. There's a moment when she's... There it is. Come on. And I hope this isn't the video compression. Yeah, that's where I saw it. Sorry. In frame 148, there's this ever so slight dip in the eyebrows. And I think that has to be a blink. Which is, again, she's kind of like... Her thought process, her attention was just changed there. And that's just one of the things that I think that has to be a full blink. Because she kind of like goes into... Frame 49, her eyes are almost closing, and then her eyes are completely wide open on frame 50. So she goes from here to there. And I think if you throw a blink in between those two, that's going to register so much better. And it's also going to allow you to play with the brows as well, because you can throw a take in there as well. And although it's a little bit cliched sometimes, you know, where every reaction characters have are like that, it's still something that you don't have to make it as extreme, and you can make this very nice close and open there. So yeah, so that's kind of like the only thing that jumps out at me, and I think that, yeah, just have a look at your silhouette on frame 196. It just feels like everything's really up here to an extent, almost going into T-Rex mode to a degree. And I think it can be, you know, if she pushes herself out a little bit more, and again, keeping that cup away from the chest as much as you can, that's going to be kind of like a really, 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 really strong pose, you know, that you can get in there at the end. Like, I get the change of emotion, but it just feels a little bit cluttered. I think that, you know, you can just play around with it until, you know, you might move the screen right hand back a little bit, and might move the screen left hand forward a little bit more, and try to see how much you can get in there. But there's probably a nice shape that you can get in there. Well, anyway, hope it's useful, and yeah, I'm looking forward to see what you come up with this week, man. You know, rock on. Take care.